navigating the challenges of operating during a global pandemic. COVID-conscious travel procedures and the emergence of touchless tech have now defined the landscape of business travel. Joining us now to look at the need to magnify data security during the period of COVID-19 is Oz Desai, the General Manager at Corporate Traveller. A very good afternoon to you, sir. Thank you so very much for being with us here on SABC News this afternoon.
Good afternoon. Thank you for having me.
You're most welcome. Let's start by talking about the technological innovations such as biometrics, facial recognition, and smart products that have made air travel efficient and I assume instrumental too in maybe, crime fighting. But there's also on the back of that the issue of it being perhaps invasive to a privacy conscious traveler. How do we balance the two? Is one, more important than the other and can justifiably then sort of take preference over the other?
Yeah, I think it's a great question. And data security is something that's so pertinent in our world and our environment today. What COVID-19 has done is probably ramped up the need for biosecurity because we want to be as touchless as possible. To your point, there's been innovation for the last few years. If you think about many years ago, how difficult it was, you would have a paper ticket, and now everything is digital. That's just a starting point. What airlines and travel providers are trying to do is try and make this as frictionless as possible for you by having your data in different data points. Understandably, there are risks with regards to that, but most of these companies, if not all of the companies, have go through strict validations from a security perspective in order to secure that data. And the data they actually keep is to give you more travel information, travel trends, versus really pertinent private information. So all companies globally have to are mandated by PCI and POPIA or GDPR if you are of the Europe. So there's always going to be that piece, how secure is my data? And that's the mandate of every single global organization that deals with data in order to secure that. But most importantly, it's going to be how much you're willing to do. If you're quite happy using facial recognition and having auto-saved information on your phone, chances are you're going to be quite happy to do that. And if you're not, there are other ways of accessing whatever point you need to do within your travel journey.
Yeah, Mr. Desai, it's interesting because we're talking about, business travel. I mean, you're a general manager at Corporate Traveller. And as we're talking, I'm wondering to myself how relevant really the discussion is, given the fact that at this time, people on business owners, CEOs used to travel all over, every couple of weeks and so forth. They are not really doing as much traveling as they used to do, are they, right now? I mean, especially now that, we've realized that we can do a lot of the things online, the advent of Zoom, Skype, all these sort of meetings, Teams that we have going on. I'm wondering just how much traveling really is still a thing. I mean, are people still really, business travelers in particular, really going out there and risking it as opposed to just being at home or in an office and just operating a meeting just like that?
Yeah, that's not a question. It's a question I get all the time, and it's not unique. Absolutely, people are traveling. So has there been a lot of substitution with Zooms and various video conferencing platforms? Absolutely. But business travel is such where we have to move certain industries, have to move essential personnel, and that has to happen regardless of COVID or not, where you've got to move people onto sites and those kind of things. But also what we find in a year into the pandemic, that people have a bit of Zoom fatigue. Collaboration is incredibly difficult via Zoom, especially if you're doing strategy sessions and those kind of things. And what we find is companies are now, as restrictions kind of change, are getting people on the plane. I know for myself and the executive team, we've been on airplanes to visit our different offices across the country over the last 2 or 3 months. I think people are just tired of working on Zoom. We're personable as human nature, and we want to get out and interact with each other. So that happens. And we've seen that whenever the markets kind of open and levels of restriction change, travel picks up. And we've seen that now through Feb and March, as we went into level 1, domestic travel has definitely picked up. There are limitations for South Africans internationally, but globally, international travel is happening depending on the country's restrictions. And this is where the innovation is coming in in those different parts to get us ready as vaccines are rolled out to allow for that to happen quite seamlessly.
Yeah, no, travelers are obviously often in unfamiliar territory, unfamiliar places, easily distracted, and more likely to be victims of cyber attacks when using a public Wi-Fi at airports or whatever. I mean, I was in India not a long while ago, and there's literally Wi-Fi everywhere, and I was a little bit worried about using any Wi-Fi from anywhere, but that's just the way of life, I suppose. What steps can business travelers really take to keep their data safe while they are on their travels?
Yeah, I think it's the simple things that we forget all the time that are actually the most effective. To your point, using secure Wi-Fi only, not just any Wi-Fi. You want to know it's encrypted because that's the easiest access people have to your phones. We've all been accustomed to it. We're at a busy airport and we look at a charging station with multiple phones and leave our phones there. That's where people can generally clone your phone to get access to your phones.
Yeah.
Always using security codes, passcodes, or even best biometrics with access to your phone. And if you are connecting via Wi-Fi, try and use your company VPN so there's a level of security. Things like carrying a power bank, quite effective. Again, if you're on a power, you can easily charge your phone. Those are the really simple things that we can all do all the time that we do tend to forget every now and then. And of course, make sure you have good antivirus and security within your mobile phone specifically and your computers, of course.
All right, well spoken. Thank you so very much, Oz, for your input here on the show. We really certainly do appreciate it so much.
Thank you. Have a good afternoon.
Same to you.